I would venture to say we were potentially one of the worst districts in the nation.
Any way you could steal, they were doing it. Fraud, corruption, contract scandals, flat-out theft, people walking out with laptops, just anything you can imagine.
We had documented cases of people that were putting in 50 hours of overtime a week. 50 hours a week, every week of the year, including Christmas.
Dead people getting paychecks, teachers not getting paid.
If you could send your kid to private school, you did. Everybody else was left with no choices.
The valedictorian of one of our high schools could not walk across the stage and get her diploma because she failed the graduation exit exam in math 7 times. She had straight A's in math.
If we had told the kids to fill in C on their tests, they would have done better than the school did on the end of the year tests. I mean, they were below random.
How you to resolve this depth of corruption, this depth of disenfranchisement in a system that has to keep going. And so I used to think that, like, if only there could just be, like, a few months where there was just no school, right? And then Katrina happens, right? And you're kind of like, well, there you go.
With the schools shuttered and the opportunity to start it over again, we were going to take advantage of that and do a much better job. And we did.
We were willing to try anything.
The hurricane did a lot of damage, but neglect did a lot of damage too. So this opportunity to build a new district was not to be passed up. What makes the charters unique is that they can select their principals and staff based on merit. They can promote people based on performance. They can dismiss people who aren't performing. They can lengthen their school year and school day because of the needs of the children. They're public schools with greater freedom.
They receive almost complete autonomy in exchange for delivering on certain outcomes.
It's a very entrepreneurial environment with public education in New Orleans.
Right now we are located in the old Rock Lane building.
Oh, okay.
Folks know about our school, that it is a different option in the city of New Orleans. It's a new public school, but we're also a new type 2 charter school.
We're a brand new high school. It's our first year with a graduating class.
We accept all 9th graders.
When does y'all enrollment start? It's going on now. Oh, okay.
In New Orleans today, you have choices. This is an incredible opportunity to reshape how we think about education.
Like, a lot of kids in New Orleans have people who tell them, like, you're never going to be anybody and you can't do anything. So that's probably why they feel like they can't go to college.
All of our teachers here went to college and they won't teach us to go to college. So we could change New Orleans in the world to make everybody else go to college.
We went up in every grade, in every subject, and we outperformed everyone else in growth. Congratulations!
We have, after 5 years, haves and have-nots. So we have created some excellent schools. And then we have what essentially are dumping schools. They are public schools where all the students who couldn't get in the charters or couldn't stay in the charters are now concentrated in these other schools. And in those schools, no learning takes place whatsoever.
We just let people come in who had a theory of how they might want to run a school, and that was fine. They rubber stamped it. Okay, yeah, send them to New Orleans. Our children are guinea pigs. There's no other word but underhanded. Why would you create a bunch of schools for a population that wasn't even back yet and then say, oh, this is something wonderful for them, without their voice in it?
I walked in there excited and said I wanted to
register my son, and he's on the autism spectrum. And what I heard was, we can't accommodate him. And this was repeated over and over at every charter school we went to.
Every public school should be able to accommodate every type of child. That's the real no child left behind. If it's a wheelchair kid, a wheelchair access, if it's an autism kid, you know, that is really, really frustrating on a parent.
If some charters are kicking kids out and sending them to you, why aren't you blowing the whistle?
I don't think there's any principal in the district who hasn't said to Mr. Vallis, look, this is what's going on. Why aren't we doing something about it?
We're going to be doing more policing. We're going to focus more on accountability. If you are deliberately discouraging people or turning people away, that would be breach of contract. You could lose your charter.
We can't start the conversation with, you're not providing services for this kid and you don't have even the structure to provide these services. When in fact, before the storm, that school didn't serve these kids and did not have the structure.
There's a lot of anger. But to sit back and say that schools and students are not doing better is a myth. I think New Orleans is going to have the best urban school district in the United States.
I say that we're like at base camp at preparing to climb Mount Everest. The only difference is last year we weren't even in the Himalayas.
Charter schools are just a means to an end. They're not a solution, they're not a panacea. Certainly, we're seeing an improvement in terms of test scores, but the goal of reform is not to increase test scores. It's to graduate folks from college. If we're not getting kids into college, then something's horribly wrong.
So 128 times 4.
This can be done. It's being done. Systemically, it can be done. New Orleans is hinting at that.
My biggest fear is that we won't see this through to completion. To not provide for all kids to have opportunity and access, we're losing some of our greatest resources in the country.
One of the things that I think Katrina, a gift that I feel really blessed from Katrina, is I feel completely released from the notion of waiting for any entity to do something. If you are a neighborhood around a school and you want to change it, organize yourselves and do it.
People have finally realized that economic tragedy is fueled in part by the failure of public schools to operate and function. One of these days, the United States of America is going to wake up and we're not going to be in charge of our economic well-being anymore. Others will be. It's time for us to get off our dead asses and do something about it.